Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
I think it's really important for leaders to take decisive action when candidate behavior that is irresponsible, that is reckless, that is not what we stand for is dealt with in the most decisive way possible.
It affects us. Government affects us. And no matter what way you look at it, government is going to affect your everyday life.
As a strong woman and a role model, she exemplifies change, courage, and the power of your voice. So I think she would be elated of the rich legacy that she has entrusted to all of us here today.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with election coverage. The Ontario Liberal Party has dropped its candidate for Chatham-Kent-Leamington right before the nomination deadline. It's due to homophobic comments the candidate posted on social media several years ago that have just recently surfaced. The CBC's Jason Vio is on this story for us and joins us live in studio now with more. Jason, how did this all unfold?
Well, this morning, the NDP released screen grabs of comments made by Alec Mazurek on Facebook. They used the F word, otherwise known as a homophobic slur. And shortly after that, Ontario Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca called that type of behavior irresponsible and reckless. And then Mazurek was booted out of the Liberal candidate spot for Chatham-Kent-Leamington. And
given the word that was used here, how are some in the LGBTQ community reacting to this?
I spoke with Colum Holmes, who's chair of the board for the Windsor Pride community. He says words like that make people feel less than and can affect mental health in a really negative way. That's at least how he reacted personally when he read those words. Holmes says that type of language has no value in society and is just used to hurt people in the LGBTQ community.
So I was a little bit shocked initially. Obviously, the word carries a lot of weight in our community and is used constantly as a weapon to harm our community. And so I was a little shocked that someone that has been vetted and you know is going to be running for a position in our election had those views and utilized that language.
He says he supports the decision to remove him as a candidate because actions have consequences, especially, he says, when using harmful homophobic language.
Jason, what is the former candidate saying now that his comments have become so public?
Well, he did post a message on Facebook today apologizing for the comments that he says weren't acceptable then and aren't acceptable now. He admits the language is homophobic and misogynistic and says the comments were made 8 years ago when he was 15. He's now 23 years old and says the words are not reflective of who he is today. He also says all Ontarians deserve to have a safe community around them, and comments like those make it more difficult to earn that trust. He declined our request for an interview today, and Mazurek isn't the only Liberal candidate who's been ousted this week. 2 others were removed from running because of offensive comments they also made.
Jason, given everything that's transpired here, is the Ontario Liberal Party going to change how it vets potential candidates?
Well, we did ask that question, and they would only say that the vetting process never stops and that they're always trying to ensure their team is reflective of the province. As for the spot Mazurek left open in Chatham-Kent-Leamington for the Liberals, the party says they want to have a full ticket come Election Day on June 2nd, but the nomination deadline closed at 2 p.m. today, and we haven't heard back on whether the Liberals have found someone to run in that riding.
Thanks for this, Jason. CBC's Jason Vio live in studio for us tonight. And as Jason mentioned, it's unclear if the Liberals will now run a candidate for Chatham-Kent-Leamington. But today, Doug Ford was in that riding, drumming up support. The seat was held by Rick Nichols, elected under the PC banner, but Ford kicked him out for refusing to get vaccinated. Now Nichols is running for the Ontario Party, and it all means it's shaping up to be an interesting race. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick spoke to Chatham voters about what issues and candidates are attracting their attention.
What do you think of Doug Ford as a premier?
I think he sends mixed messages. I don't quite agree with him. Some stances I was glad that he put his foot down, and but I do like Rick Nichols.
What do you like about Rick Nichols?
He's just honest, and he listens to what his writing says, and he seems to be for his people and listens to his people. And he's a hometown boy, so I really like him.
I'm an EC here in Chatham. I've been an EC for 10 years. I'm a mom of 2, so all about the children.
And what issue is important to you in this campaign, Tess?
So being in ECE, they've created a bunch of spaces for children, which is fantastic. There's tons of families and children that need care and space, and our job is really important, but we're not being compensated for the importance of our job. So, and the fact that we just don't have enough educators either, right? We're burnt out, we're run down. There's just not enough of us.
I want to hear the leaders are starting to cut the deficit back down again. I know the last budget was quite generous deficit-wise, so I'd like to see some direction as to reducing that. So.
Why is that important to you?
Because I want to leave a legacy for my kids without a lot of debt. I don't want a lot of the social payments going to debt payments over time or whatever. So I think over time they should be cutting it down, especially when the economy is fairly strong.
Megan also spoke with the municipality's former chief administrative officer for his take on the election. Don Shropshire just retired after 12 years on that job, and for him, economic development is top of mind.
For the last several years, Chatham-Kent's primary focus has been economic, and right now we've enjoyed a really nice increase in our economic activity, notwithstanding COVID. But right now we have really major stress points with trying to get a sufficient workforce. So we're trying to get people that are trained and able to work and help support the economy to continue to grow, and that's a major issue for us. So whatever the province could do to try and help attract people in that skilled trades, all different parts of the economy, that's a major challenge for us. So that's what we're hoping to hear from.
We are a week into the Ontario election campaign, and to take a look at what the polls are saying, we're joined once again by Eric Grenier, poll analyst, writer at the website The Writ, and CBC's poll tracker for this provincial election. So, Eric, what is new this week in the polls?
Well, not all that much, because it started with the PCs under Doug Ford leading in the polls, and that's where they are today. In the poll tracker, which is our aggregation of all the polls that have been published during this campaign, we have the PCs leading with about 38% support. The Liberals right now are at second with 29%, and the New Democrats are in third. So the gap between the PCs and the Liberals right now at about 9 points. That's more than enough for the PCs to get a majority government. So if the election were held today, that would likely be what would be the result.
So how surprising is it to you that there hasn't been much movement?
It is a bit of a surprise, because when you're the incumbent government, you're leading in the polls, you often expect to see the opposition parties close the gap as election day approaches, and we haven't seen that happen yet. So that'll be something to watch if it's going to shift over the next few weeks, because right now, as I said, it is Doug Ford who is going to win this election. So Stephen Del Duca and Andrea Horwath, the leaders of the Liberals and the New Democrats, really need to see something happen in the polls, because if it continues like this for a couple more weeks, neither of them will be premier.
Yeah, so say more about the leaders. What changes are we seeing in terms of their popularity right now?
We are seeing a little bit of Stephen Del Duca's name recognition, which was very low going into the campaign, seems to be getting better. He also has closed the gap a little bit on Andrea Horwath in terms of who Ontarians prefer to be premier. But on that question, it is still Doug Ford who's in first place. So on the leadership question, Doug Ford is leading, and in voting intentions, PCs are ahead. So in the leadership numbers, not a lot of indication that something is happening under the surface that we should start to see in the polls in terms of how people are going to vote anytime soon.
And in southwestern Ontario, what are you seeing in the polls and the polling here?
Well, we've seen that in the Southwest, the PCs are leading by a pretty significant margin. It's one of the areas where their support has actually held up the most since 2018. And we've seen that the NDP has fallen back quite a bit. A lot of that support has gone to the Liberals. The question is if it's going to actually produce any Liberal seats, because we know that in, for example, the Windsor area, the Liberals did not do particularly well in the last election. So is the NDP support strong enough in places like Windsor and places like London to hold on to that support? Or is the fact that they're down and the PCs are holding going to flip some seats? But if you're looking at the ridings as the progressive conservatives, you're pretty happy with what you're seeing, because it looks like a lot of those seats that went blue last time are going to stay blue, and there might actually be some opportunities for pickups for the PCs.
And we saw the leaders face off this week in North Bay, and then this coming Monday night is the leaders' debate in Toronto. So how much should we expect debates to move the needle in popular opinion?
When there is going to be a shift, it often takes place at the debate. That is often the point where things really go in one direction or another. So for Stephen Del Duca and Andrea Horwath, they need that to happen, because if things continue as it's going, if people watch the debate and it confirms what they already think about Doug Ford, confirms what they already think about the Liberal and NDP leaders, we're not going to see any movement in the polls. So for Doug Ford, he wants a debate that is low event, does not cause him any problems, and he wants Andrew Horvath and Stephen Del Duca to be unable to break through and continue to divide the vote that is currently opposed to seeing the PCs reelected on June 2nd.
Thanks for the update, Eric. That is Eric Grenier. He's a poll analyst, a writer at the website The Writ, and he's running CBC's poll tracker for this election. Teens who can't yet vote in the provincial election still want their voices heard. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa went to schools across the region and learned what youth in Windsor-Essex care about the most.
With the upcoming provincial election, teens want their voice to count. Students that I spoke to across the region say that 2 years of a global pandemic really made them realize the impact that government decisions have on their daily life. Those I spoke with are all turning 18 in the next few months, so they can't cast a ballot in this upcoming provincial election. But that's not stopping them from being vocal about the issues that they want voters and political parties to pay attention to.
Pharmacare is really important to me, and it's hard to believe that we haven't put in place a proper pharmacare plan to date. Certainly the housing issue is a big concern of mine. I don't want to be living in my parents' house when I'm 30 years old, so it's a really big issue. I've been looking for going to school away to London, and I can't because of the pricing in tuition and housing. It's unaffordable.
As a senior in high school that will be pursuing post-secondary education, I'm really looking into the outrageous amount of student debt that is imposed on every student that chooses to pursue that higher education. The future of this country needs to have some sort of support from government officials in order to advance our knowledge and contribute to Canadian society and economy.
We basically just started working as we grow up. So you see, when you start buying stuff yourself, start paying your bills, I've seen the inflation, especially with the gas prices. I go to my local grocery store, and things that were $1 the last day is $2 now. The price has doubled and everything. Leadership was really put to the test the past 2 years with the pandemic and all that. So I guess really now I know what to look for when I'm voting for a leader.
The youth I spoke with are passionate about change, but their hands are tied in this election. All of this made me think, should the voting age be lowered? One advocate I spoke with thinks that it should be.
Changing the voting age to 16 would be a good idea for multiple reasons. When young people are engaged early on, you actually create a generation of lifetime voters.
But not all young people feel ready to vote. Some of the youth I spoke to say that their peers who are 18 don't feel confident in making that decision. Awan says there would need to be more education if that voting age were lowered, and politicians would have to meet youth where they're at. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
A new statue has been unveiled downtown honoring North America's first Black female newspaper publisher. It depicts Marianne Shadd holding a copy of her newspaper, The Provincial Freeman. She started the paper back in the mid-1800s, championing abolitionism and the rights of Black people and women. The statue stands at the corner of Chatham and Ferry Streets, a tribute to Shadd's accomplishments.
Myself, I didn't find out about Marianne Shadd until I was 17, and the Canadian Centennial train came by and told everybody this. And so I think this kind of history needs to be brought so everybody understands it, can appreciate it, and can learn from it. It's great. I mean, we get recognition of somebody in our family, somebody in Canadian history that contributed so much to help fugitive slaves and everyone else to try to better themselves. So it's great that she's getting that kind of recognition. You know, we need that.
Well, she's depicted stepping forward, and her skirts are pulled back, showing like the wind as a force of discrimination that had no effect on her. She just kept advancing, and she was courageous and brilliant, and well, you heard it all today. So I hope I depicted that. Having her story known by more people now, hopefully they'll just appreciate what she worked so hard for.
I think she's a role model for us, for other women, for everybody. Yeah, we're very, very appreciated and very proud to see it.
She'll continue to be an inspiration for the ones that come in back of us. The kids will be inspired by her contributions, and hopefully they'll be doing the same thing. We'll see monuments of other family members at some point in time.
Windsor's Ojibwe Shores is on its way to becoming a national park.
Today is a really, really exciting day because we secured Ojibwe Shores forever. And so Ojibwe Shores is going to be protected for generations to come.
Transport Canada is officially transferring the land over to Parks Canada. It's a critical part of the process in creating the Ojibwe National Urban Park, which Ojibwe Shores will be part of. NDP MP Brian Massey has been lobbying for the transfer for years, and he calls today a victory for all Windsor residents. The national park is also expected to include existing parks like Black Oak and the Ojibwe Prairie Provincial Nature Reserve. Nav Nanwa has officially taken over as the host of Windsor Morning, and today was his very first day. So I checked in with him on how it went and what listeners can look forward to.
So Nav, today was your day one.
Yes.
How did it feel? How did it go?
It was scary. I will say that. It's a fast-paced show. Windsor Morning truly is, and again, I wouldn't have gone through it if I didn't have such an amazing team. But I thought it went well. You know, obviously, when you're sitting in a chair for the first time, you obviously get intimidated, especially when you follow someone like Tony, who did it for so long and is such a staple in the community. It's a bit intimidating, but at the same time, I think the community was very warm, welcoming to me, which was great. And I think overall, hopefully, it only goes up from here.
And what kind of host are you going to be? What should people be listening for in you?
I love connecting with people, and I know that can sound cheesy at times. And I know as host, you can probably relate to that too, considering you host our 6 p.m. supper hour show. But I love connecting with people. I love telling stories, and I hope that when they listen to Windsor Morning, they get a sense of that. They get a sense of someone who cares, someone who wants to ask, the thoughtful and hard questions, but also the questions that truly get the best out of the guests themselves. And I hope that when people tune in, they get a sense of my interests. I'm a big music person, so one of the things that I really want to showcase is my love for music, especially Canadian music, and I definitely did my best in sort of influencing some of the music we played on today's show, and I hope to do that moving forward. I hope that when people tune into Windsor Morning, they really get a sense of what their community is all about. And it's not just Windsor Essex. I'm talking Chatham-Kent, I'm talking Sarnia-Lambton, I'm talking about Leamington, I'm talking about all the areas. I want people to get a sense of what Windsor Essex has to offer, and I hope they get that when they tune in the morning, and I hope that I can truly be their coffee companion, because I know this show, it has been a staple in a lot of Windsorites' lives over the last, 10, 15 years. And I want to continue that, because I think it's really important that you do start your day off right. And if I can help with that, then I know my goal is accomplished.
And you can, of course, listen to Nav on 97.5 FM every morning, every weekday morning. Let's take a live look outside there. Another gorgeous day. Colette will be here after the break with a look at the forecast. Stay with us. It was another beautiful day today, and the warmth brought out people and some animals as well. We have this video of a beaver. This was captured in South Windsor. Just clearly wanted to soak up the sun. And then check this out. One of our producers snapped a shot of this wandering pheasant, who I guess also wanted to go outside. And this is a good time to bring in Colette, because Colette, I've actually never seen a pheasant
he looks,
in real life.
she, I don't know, overdressed, like so elegant.
Just a little bit, right? So
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
Like matching the golden rays of the sunshine as well.
Yeah, and exactly. And this the contours here of my temperature map. And let me tell you.
Yes, exactly.
Here we go. And let me tell you about this, what I've got on here. Some of these are records, not all of them, but I just wanted to kind of put anything over 28 degrees. And there was plenty to choose from. So 29 for Windsor, the daytime high. But folks, look at all the 30s, including like Pembroke at 31, Collingwood at 32. And the influence of the lakes, well, it also has to depend on the wind direction. So you can be close to one of these water bodies and not necessarily have cooler temperatures, obviously. But if I pop a few numbers on here, a few extra, you'll see like Kingston just 23 and Toronto 26 because of the influence of the lake and more of that breeze coming off of it. And I know I said the cutoff was had to be over 28, but I just want to show you because Harrow, 28 degrees today, so a record there, and had to get that onto our graphic here. All right, these are our current temperatures and what we're looking at. Another slightly cooler number, although still very pleasant. Chatham-Kent at 24 there, and Goderich at 25. Otherwise, it's all these upper 20s, showing you the humidex, and for a reason. And if you're like, well, this isn't much. Well, yeah, we're having this nice weather, and you know, dry spell. Sunny, hot, or at least warm, but without the humidity. Now it is going to be building a little bit as we get into the weekend. It's not going to be oppressive, but you'll notice it at least kind of coming on somewhat. So high pressure there, so the clear skies, still having to shoot all the active weather around us, so it's well to the north. Things will be changing up though, and this is what I want to kind of show you. So Saturday, most of the day is still looking like it's going to be great, but just plan accordingly for late in the day Saturday, okay? Some of these storms that start to brew into Michigan along that frontal boundary into that early evening may just start to work their way in. They'll begin to die out, but still some active weather possible, more so Saturday night into Sunday morning. So as you're looking at my graphic, I have us at 28 tomorrow. By the way, that's after an overnight low tonight of 14 degrees with clear skies. But I've put my thunderstorm kind of in between Saturday and Sunday, and I've adjusted the percentages of that precipitation accordingly, okay? So some of it could linger into Sunday a little bit, but I just want that point across that most of Saturday is still going to be pretty good. So
yes,
take
I appreciate
that to
that
the bank.
optimism so much. It's like, guys, Saturday, it's not going to be that bad. It's going to hopefully maybe be okay for the most part.
Yeah, if we can
great.
hold that timing, if things don't change, then never mind what your icon on your app says.
Exactly. I love it. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, Ford City has a new crosswalk, but it is no ordinary crosswalk. So we will show you that right after the break. This just into our newsroom. We have an update on the story we brought you on the Liberals booting out their candidate for Chatham-Kent-Leamington over past homophobic comments. Alec Masaryk lost his ability to be a candidate, and Audrey Fester-Riga will now be running in his place for the Liberals. We will have more on that story on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. In other local news now, Ford City has elevated the simple crosswalk to another level. A new hand-painted crosswalk in the neighborhood is a nod to the area's industrial history and its current revitalization. Residents love how it is putting Ford City on the map.
I think it's wonderful. I think it really livens up the corner. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that before, but it's really nice, and hope to see a lot more of it. To see it, especially in the Jewel you see it the way it's coming to life with all the murals on the wall, and that's just another addition to it. I think it's really important. I think it's great. I mean, you look at Walkerville at one time was pretty dead, and you see the property values, and it all coming to life now with business expansion, and now young people moving in, and you can just see that it's a catalyst. It doesn't take too much. You get a few restaurants coming, a few art galleries and painting works and things like that, and it grows, it expands exponentially.
I love that. So beautiful. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can always go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can find all of our election coverage there as well. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.